Her thumb hovered over the screen like it didn't belong to her. The message sat there, bright and casual, like it hadn't just changed the shape of her night. She read it once, then again, then slower, as if reading it differently could make it mean something else. Behind her, he moved around the room, humming softly, like everything was normal, like she wasn't standing in the middle of a quiet collapse. She didn't turn around. She couldn't, because if she looked at him, she might pretend she hadn't seen it. And she didn't have the energy to lie to herself again. She used to believe trust was something you built, brick by brick, until it became a home. She thought they had done that. She thought what they had was the kind of love that didn't need guarding, the kind that didn't need checking, the kind that felt safe even in silence. But that night, one message pulled at a thread she didn't even know existed. And once it started unraveling, she realized something that scared her more than betrayal itself. She realized she didn't know where she ended and where he began. This was not a revenge story. It was not a story about winning. It was a story about what it felt like to lose someone while they were still standing right in front of you, and what it took to still choose yourself after. She didn't fall in love loudly. She didn't do the dramatic versions of love, the ones that burned and vanished and left you dizzy. She loved quietly, the kind of love that remembered the small things, the kind that softened the edges of your day. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she could breathe around someone. Not perform, not explain, don't overthink every sentence. Just exist. He had a way of making ordinary moments feel steady. A hand on her lower back when crossing the street. A text in the middle of a workday that didn't ask for anything, just said, "Eat something, please." He listened as he meant it, not like he was waiting for his turn. And that mattered more than flowers or grand speeches ever could. She didn't need someone to save her. She needed someone who didn't make her feel unsafe when the room got quiet. And with him, she felt safe. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real. They built routines, little rituals, evenings on the couch with the same old show playing in the background, late-night kitchen conversations where the lights were low and the world outside felt far away. She started leaving things at his place without thinking. A sweater, a toothbrush, a book she never finished but kept meaning to. She started planning in her head without realizing it. Next month, next season, next year. Not because she was desperate, because it felt natural, because she trusted him completely. And that trust wasn't blind. It was earned, or so she thought. It didn't start with something obvious. There was no lipstick on a collar, no strange perfume, no late-night calls. He hid dramatically. It was smaller, quieter, the kind of thing you could explain away if you wanted to keep your peace. He started turning his phone face down. Not always, just enough for her to notice. And when she did notice, she hated herself for noticing, because she didn't want to be that woman, the suspicious one, the one who counted minutes and watched eyes and replayed conversations. So she told herself it meant nothing. He was tired. He was stressed. Everyone deserved privacy. Then came the pauses. She would ask a simple question, "How was your day?" And there would be a tiny delay. Not long enough to accuse. Just long enough to feel like he was selecting a version of his day. Sometimes he laughed at things on his phone, then locked it quickly when she came near. "Just a stupid meme," he'd say. And she'd smile as she believed him, because she wanted to. There were moments he felt far away, even when he was right there. Like his body was present, but his mind was sitting somewhere else. Once, she reached for his hand in the car, and he pulled away without meaning to. He apologized quickly, too quickly. "I didn't even realize," he said, squeezing her fingers afterward. That fixed it. And she nodded, because she didn't want to turn it into something bigger. But it stayed with her, not as proof, as a feeling, a thin, uncomfortable feeling she kept trying to swallow. Then there was the new habit. He started stepping outside to take calls. Not just work calls, random calls, short calls. He'd come back in and act normal, too normal, like he had practiced normally. She didn't ask who it was. Not because she didn't care, because she cared too much. And some part of her was afraid of what his answer might do to her. So she stayed quiet. And in her quiet, she kept loving him. As if love could smother doubt. As if trust could be forced back into place by pretending it had never slipped. That night, it was simple, ordinary. They ate dinner. He made a joke about how she always stole the crispiest fries. She laughed, leaning into him, feeling that warmth she kept chasing. Later, he went to shower. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. Once, then again. She didn't move at first. She stared at it like it was a living thing. Like it might bite. She told herself she wouldn't touch it. She didn't want to be the person who did that. She didn't want to cross that line. But the screen lit up again, and the preview showed just enough. A name she didn't recognize. A sentence that didn't belong in her life. I miss what we do when she's not around. Her throat tightened immediately. It didn't even feel real. It felt like reading someone else's nightmare. She picked up the phone before she could talk herself out of it. Her hands were steady. That part scared her. The phone wasn't locked. He never locked it. That was part of why she trusted him. The message thread was right there. No hidden apps. No secret folders. Just a whole second relationship living in plain sight. Her chest went cold. Not hot. Cold. She scrolled. Not fast. Slowly. Like she was walking into a room she didn't want to enter. There were messages from weeks ago. Then months. Small flirtations at first. Little jokes. Inside language. Then the shift. The tone changed. It became intimate. Familiar. Careless. There were nights mentioned. There were plans hinted at. There were words he had said to her, reused. Copy-pasted into someone else's heart. And then she saw it. A message from him. From 2 days ago. She trusts me. She's so easy. She doesn't even check. Her breath left her body like it had been punched out. Not because he had someone else. Not even because he had lied. Because he had looked at her trust, the most careful thing she owned, and called it easy. She sat down slowly, still holding the phone. The room felt unfamiliar. Like the air had changed. Like every object was suddenly a witness. She heard the shower turn off. She heard him moving around in the bathroom. And she realized she had about 10 seconds before he walked back in. But she didn't move. She didn't hide it. She didn't put the phone back. Because something inside her had already snapped into a kind of clarity. He walked in, towel around his waist, hair damp. He smiled when he saw her. That smile almost broke her. "Why are you holding my phone?" he asked, light and casual, like it was a small thing. She stared at him. She tried to speak. Nothing came. He noticed then, not the phone, her face. His smile faded slowly. "What's wrong?" he asked. She held the phone out, screen facing him. He looked. His eyes changed. Not guilt first. Fear. The kind of fear that only shows up when someone has been caught. He swallowed. "Let me explain," he said immediately. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Because the explanation didn't matter yet. Not when her whole body was trying to understand how someone could call her trust easy. She looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Not as her person, as a stranger with familiar hands. What part of betrayal hurts the most? The lie, the disrespect, or realizing you loved someone you didn't actually know? If you've ever been through a story like this, stay close and subscribe for more quiet, human stories that don't rush the healing. He kept talking. Words poured out of him as he could drown in sound. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. It was just texting. It was a mistake. She heard everything, and it all sounded the same, like the noise made by someone who didn't want consequences. She finally spoke, but her voice didn't sound like hers. "You said I was easy," she whispered. He blinked, like he hadn't expected that to be the thing that hurt her most. He stepped forward, reaching for her. "Come on." She leaned back, just slightly. Not dramatic. Just enough to show him he no longer had automatic access to her. His hand froze in the air. "I didn't mean it like that," he said quickly, eyes searching her face. She nodded once. Not because she agreed. Because she understood something. He was not sorry he did it. He was sorry she saw it. And that distinction landed in her chest like a weight. She didn't cry right away. That surprised her, too. She expected tears. Screaming. A dramatic exit. But her body went quiet. It was protecting her by turning her feelings down to a low volume. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the streetlights glowed softly. People drove by. Strangers lived their lives. The world kept moving as if nothing happened. Behind her, he kept talking, softer now. He tried to sound gentle. He said her name once. And that was when she realized something else. He said it like a tool. Like the right word in the right tone would fix the damage. She didn't turn around. She stared out the window and tried to find herself. Because she felt scattered. Like the version of her that trusted him had been shattered into small pieces, and she didn't know which ones were safe to pick up. Her mind replayed everything. The small kindnesses. The routines. The nights she fell asleep against his chest, believing she was held by something solid. She wondered if those moments were real, or if they had just been convenient. That question hurt more than the cheating. Because if the love had been fake, then she had been living inside a story that didn't exist. He came closer. Not too close. like he knew he was on thin ice. "I love you," he said. She finally turned her head slightly. Her eyes met his, and she saw a man who wanted to keep what he had, not a man who respected what he broke. Her throat tightened. She spoke quietly. "Why did you stay?" He frowned. "What do you mean? If you wanted that, why did you stay with me?" she asked, voice steady but small. He hesitated. Just a fraction. And in that hesitation, she heard the truth. Because if he had loved her the way she loved him, he would have answered immediately. Instead, he said, "Because I do love you. I messed up." She looked at him. Her chest hurt slowly, like bruising. She nodded again, once. And she realized she was done trying to get honesty from someone who survived on vagueness. She walked to the couch and sat down. Not collapsing, not begging, just sitting, like she needed her body to remember what still belonged to her. The silence between them grew. He didn't know what to do with silence. She did. She had been living in it for weeks without even noticing. She stayed the night. Not because she forgave him, because she didn't want to make decisions in the middle of a storm. She went to the bathroom, washed her face, brushed her teeth, and moved slowly like she was underwater. When she lay down, she didn't curl into him. She faced the other side. He didn't touch her. He just lay there, stiff, like he was waiting for her to soften. She didn't. At some point, she heard him whisper, "I'm sorry." It landed on her like a pebble, too small for the damage. In the morning, she woke up before him. The light through the curtains looked the same as every other morning. That was the strange part. Betrayal didn't change the room. It changed her. She made coffee quietly. Her hands didn't shake. Again, steady, like her body had chosen survival. She sat at the table and thought about the version of herself who would have stayed. The version who would have tried to be understanding, who would have blamed herself for not being enough. She felt a sharp sadness for that woman. Not shame, just tenderness. Because that woman had loved hard. She had loved honestly. She had believed in something. And now she had to protect her. When he woke up, he came into the kitchen slowly. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept at all. He sat down across from her. He didn't speak right away. Finally, he said, "What are we doing?" She looked at him for a long moment. Not angry, not cold, just clear. "I'm not going to compete for a place I already had," she said quietly. His face tightened. "I told you it didn't mean anything." She nodded. "And that's supposed to make me feel better?" she asked. He opened his mouth, then closed it. She took a breath. Her voice stayed calm. "I trusted you completely," she said. "And you used that. You didn't just hurt me. You made a joke out of how I loved you." He looked down. She continued, "I don't hate you. I'm not going to punish you. But I'm also not going to live in a relationship where my trust is treated like a weakness." She stood up. She went to the room and packed a small bag. Not everything, just enough. Each item she folded felt like a quiet goodbye. When she came back, he was standing. His eyes were wet. "Please," he said. She paused at the door. Not because she was tempted, because she was grieving. Grieving the future she had built in her head. The weekends, the shared home, the comfort, the idea of him. She looked at him and realized something that felt like a bruise and a lesson at the same time. Trust didn't make her easy. It made her brave. And he didn't deserve that bravery anymore. She left. She didn't slam the door. She didn't say something sharp to make herself feel powerful. She just walked out. The air outside was cold. It hit her face like a reset. In the car, she sat for a moment with her hands on the steering wheel. And that was when the tears came. Not loud, not messy, just steady tears sliding down her cheeks while she stared ahead. Her chest hurt in waves. She breathed through them, one breath at a time. That first week was strange. Her phone stayed quiet. Then it didn't. Messages from him. Calls. Apologies. Long paragraphs. Short ones. "I miss you. I'm stupid. I'll do anything. Please." She didn't respond. Not because she didn't feel anything. Because she did. She missed the version of him she thought was real. She missed the warmth, the routine, the ordinary safety. But she also remembered the message. She remembered the way her body went cold. She remembered the sentence that changed everything. "She trusts me. She's so easy." That line became a boundary, a fence she refused to climb over again. Over time, her life got quieter in a different way. Not lonely, quiet. A quiet where she could hear herself again. She began to notice things she had previously ignored. How often she had made herself smaller to keep the peace. How often she swallowed discomfort to keep love. She began to return to herself, like someone coming home after a long trip. Slowly, carefully. Some days she felt strong. Other days, she felt hollow. But even the hollow days were honest. And that honesty felt like growth. Not the kind that glows. The kind that aches and still moves forward. Sometimes, betrayal didn't feel like being stabbed. Sometimes it felt like realizing you had been holding a door open for someone who never planned to walk in with respect. And maybe the hardest part wasn't losing him. Maybe it was forgiving herself for trusting so deeply. But she did forgive herself. Not all at once. In small moments. Every time she chose not to reply. Every time she chose sleep over spiraling. Every time she remembered, love should never make you feel foolish for being soft. If you've ever read a message that changed everything, what did it change inside you? What would you have done in her place? What's the one boundary you wish you had set sooner? If you want more quiet, emotionally real romance stories that feel like life, subscribe and stay with this channel.